Hey, it's Dan. Welcome back. You're watching iAllegedly. And I've got a good one for you today because by popular demand, we've got Doug, the foreclosure expert here. And we're going to cover everything about foreclosures, all your questions you guys have sent me. And we're going to ask the expert on this. So please don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe. We have a sponsor at the end of the video, Patriot, and I will talk about them a little later. But Doug,
Hi,
foreclosures.
Dan.
You've done this 40 years. Well, more
Yeah,
than
despite
that.
my youthful appearance,
Yeah.
yeah, it's been 40 years plus.
So we met 40 years ago when we were in high school.
Correct.
Yeah, that's how old we are. Anyways, one thing that was great was your father owned a
Trustee.
trustee company,
Uh-huh.
and they would process the foreclosures back
Correct.
then. And it was all paperwork back then.
Oh yeah, the files would be. We killed a lot of trees.
Yeah, the greatest thing ever was when I was a kid going in that they were in a big bank building in the city of Orange, and I remember going to visit my friends that worked there, and you'd go through the file rooms, and it would just be boxes and boxes and boxes
Yeah, just
of
walls.
stuff, just walls of documents, and things have gotten a little more digital, more paperwork now, but people have written me and said that we're not going to have a downturn. We're not going to have a problem with real estate. But the first thing I want to talk to you about is the commercial real estate.
Okay.
Because without a doubt, there is $500 billion, $500 billion that has to be refinanced in the next about 8 months of the year.
Absolutely. They've got a break with the lowering of the rates, but properties are suffering right now with lack of occupancy and some downturns in value. So it's a bad time to have to refinance the debt.
You're seeing, my favorite thing was a story I did yesterday about how you're seeing San Francisco become a ghost town because it's got almost a 36% vacancy rate in San Francisco, and businesses are destroyed by that. Well, you add that to higher interest rates because they are higher, even if they've come down half a point. It's not enough to make a big difference, right?
Some difference, but yeah, it's not a world changer.
Okay. The entire country is averaging a 20% vacancy rate right now for buildings, which is unheard of, guys. That is the highest rate it's ever been in any economic downturn since the Great Depression. Have we had, and that was back then. There's we have hundreds of more millions of people in the country right now than we had back during the Depression.
And work at home now, which has really changed things as well. So people have adapted to not wanting to go back to office.
Think about your business too. It's as you expand, you're adding more employees and doing things with your company.
Many will be remote.
Yes, and they will be remote, which is very exciting because there's big changes coming. But these commercial buildings are going back to the banks at a record pace.
Yeah, they're going to have to sell them for whatever they can get for them. It's going to be pretty dicey for some of these regional banks, unfortunately.
So mid-level banks and smaller banks financed a lot of office buildings.
Correct.
And we're going to see, what we saw last March with Signature Bank and Silicon Valley Bank and places like that go down. We're going to see more of this, don't you think?
Yeah, I expect the FDIC could be pretty active coming up.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
You got to do me a favor because I've had people like, bring this guy on. Okay, so the commercial space is definitely getting busier right now.
Yeah, and I think the commercial could lead into the residential. I expect the residential to have a smaller movement this year, a gradual upswing, but 2025, I do expect there will be a lot of residential foreclosures.
Okay.
By 2025. I think we will see an increase as the year goes on, but right now, commercial, even though there's much fewer commercial than residential, commercial's definitely in some tough straits right now.
Okay. Now, the one thing that we're seeing right now that is unbelievable is we're seeing buildings that are marquee buildings that we've heard of, hotels you've heard of, that are being given back to the bank. Here are the keys. Like it's some desert house that you're
it's really crazy.
On.
We're starting to see what's called deeds in lieu of foreclosure, which we haven't seen in a really long time.
Explain that.
A deed in lieu is when basically you decide that you voluntarily deed the property back to the lender. In these cases with the commercial, they usually use a court-appointed receiver because there's so much money involved with these transactions in most cases.
Now, one thing that's happened is a lot of these owners of these office buildings couldn't get additional mortgages, so they went out and got signature loans because I own this marquee property, and these guys got signature loans that they're defaulting on at a record rate. Rich people that their LLCs borrowed this extra money to do God knows what, and they're losing those properties.
Yeah, especially if they're unsecured. Right now, security interest is diminished as values have gone down.
Okay. So the commercial real estate is going to affect everything, don't you think?
Well, yeah, I do. I think it's going to take a while, but if commercial gets as ill as it could conceivably get, it will definitely have a lag on residential real estate, in my opinion.
Okay. Now, being an election year, they're going to do everything they can to
correct.
keep the
That's
house
why
open.
that's why I do think we will see a slower ramping up until after the elections, and then I do expect once the votes are in, regardless of who wins or loses, that we will see a definite spike in foreclosures on the residential side. There's a lot of ones we haven't really seen the COVID stuff yet, the stuff that is still sitting there on the book. So until we see that, all bets are off.
Now, I want to expand on that. So commercial's got the problem. It's coming. And I'm telling you guys, if you have an office building right now, I have had, dozens of people contact me in the last month since I started talking about this. If you can renegotiate your rent, renegotiate your rent. If they're letting people out of their leases and you can leave and you can find something cheaper, leave. Oh, we've been in this building 9 years. We really want to do that. You want to be at a building that's going to be open. You want to be in a building that's safe. When you see these stories of crime that's happening, now San Francisco is an anomaly. Oakland, that they're closing an In-N-Out hamburger because of crime.
Which is almost impossible considering that's usually busy from the time they open to the time they close.
One thing that, I don't know if you do this or not, one thing people do a lot, they go to In-N-Out hamburger and they know, okay, I'm going to be in line a while before I get my food, and people will time it.
Yeah, go before you're hungry.
I did In-N-Out in 22 minutes. So we'll have people brag about things like that. You'll be there for 45 minutes, 50 minutes, all the time. But you just you don't go there and hurry up. You don't sit there and we're going to be out of here in 5 minutes. Not the case at all.
No.
But as far as the
slow fast food.
Yes. Okay. As far as the residential properties are concerned, the one thing I want to talk to you about was with the residential foreclosures. You're not seeing the turnover that we should be seeing, correct?
No. And a lot of stuff is still sitting in what we'd call pre-foreclosure, where the lender has not moved forward with a formal notice of default. So that is just internal delinquency between lender and borrower, which is not public information.
Okay.
Until a notice of default is filed, and then it enters the public domain.
Okay. Which is what you told me, which is what you've told me in the past. So I go out and borrow, let's just use round figures, $500,000 loan against my $750,000 house.
Okay.
And I get behind on my payments. The NOD, is that the first thing?
Correct.
The notice of default is the first thing that's filed. But generally, back in the day before COVID, you were 90 days out, you start getting the letters, you start getting the notice of default.
Even longer than that. Actually, decades, even 10 to 15 years ago, 2 months, most lenders would initiate a foreclosure proceeding, which means the NOD's filed, and in a state like California, minimum 120 days from the notice of default to when it could actually go to the courthouse steps to be auctioned.
Okay.
Minimum.
So let's go to the next step. You get the notice of default.
Correct.
You're in foreclosure.
Yes.
Okay. And then the next thing is notice of foreclosure, right?
Notice of sale.
Notice of sale, pardon me. Notice of sale. And then that's where, and you do the postings, you do the auctions, you do everything publicly. And you did some of those.
It's a joy, yes.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So, but here's the thing. You've got, at that point, it's still
there's still time.
There's still time at that point, but you also have just a disagreement between you and the lender. It's not public at that point yet, is it?
No, the notice of sale is public. And so is notice of default.
Pardon me. Once it gets to before that time, when it's just
internal delinquency, no, it's not public.
Okay, now the thing about this that people didn't believe was the internal delinquency would last. I mean, we have people that have not made their house payments in almost 4 years.
Yeah, it's really weird. That that is happening, not in mass, but enough to where it could be significant when the people do have to eventually start paying.
Okay.
A lot of people did take the government's offer to put the loans put your payment to the back of the loan, or to take a very favorable modification.
Modification, forbearance, different deals.
Others just have not responded to anything other than we're not making the payment. So we're kind of waiting to hear what the other shoe drops with those folks.
You guys know what your rent is. You know what your house payment is. Imagine not doing that for 24 months.
Not bad.
3 years. Now 3.5 years, almost 4 years. Isn't that crazy to think about? Put that number in a calculator. It's a lot. Now, the notice of sale right
Correct.
now, you're still seeing people that have equity in their houses.
Mhm.
So you're seeing deals get made even at the 11th hour.
Yeah,
correct?
definitely. People, a lot of times foreclosure sales cancel the same day. So it's not unusual for literally last second changes.
Okay.
So people do have the right to, even though there is a period of time where the lender doesn't have to take the money, they usually will waive that and take the money and cancel the foreclosure sale, or delay it if they feel like they're going to get an imminent payment. So most lenders, can't speak for all, but generally speaking, they will work with the borrower if they know it's going to be a complete payoff.
Wow. Okay. So I have been to a lot of auctions with you,
Right.
and seen the pros. I've seen the amateurs show up.
Right.
And when somebody shows up at an auction, they have to have certified funds.
Correct.
Usually here in California, it's a cashier's check.
Yes.
And sometimes I've seen properties where you will have, when you add them all up for the day, you'll have multi-million-dollar worth of sales in a day.
Uh-huh.
And I'm telling you guys, there'll be 12 bidders there that'll have, millions of dollars. $20 million will be sitting there in cashier's checks. It's crazy. Sometimes more.
Yeah, and if we had more properties, we would have more sales.
Wow.
Demand is still high. So for the people are still, based on that there's hardly anything available in some of these markets, when a rare foreclosure does happen, we do get a tremendous amount of interest, generally speaking.
That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy.
Real estate demand, supply and demand. Right now, supply low, demand high. Subject to change.
But life is going to get in the way. And here's the thing. These high interest rates are affecting people because people have used their houses as ATMs.
Correct.
Over the last 20 years, and HELOCs and different equity loans and different things. And now they're having a much more difficult time with that.
Yeah, it's been tough. And we're going to see, there's going to be a quantum change in how real estate's going to be sold coming forward. We've seen the litigation with the NRA, and I think we're going to see more property sold at auction.
But that's okay.
NRA.
Okay.
We've seen the litigation, and I think that we're going to see more property sold through websites, through non-foreclosure auctions, online. I think that we're going to see a lot of changes in that area as well.
So it's gonna be interesting, but it's also creates opportunity when you have
absolutely.
This too. So it's exciting in that sense. And I just think that, people write me and, it's all real estate's going to shoot up. It's going to be great. It's not going to drop. And then you see markets like Florida and Las Vegas, from where you're from, that are starting to take a hit right now. And you're seeing houses sit on the market longer, and you're starting to see problems with sales and with length of time.
Which is typical. I mean, right now, we're still in a somewhat high interest rate market, what people are used to. So it has definitely put a little bit of cold water on the market.
Wow. Okay. So as far as 2024, I know you guys are gearing up, and I know the banks, I know there's only certain things you can't say because you're getting approved with multiple lenders and things like that.
Right.
You're doing that not because you just want to have busy work. You're doing it because the banks are telling you they're going to get busier. Yeah,
they know that at some point they're going to have to move with some of these files. And for now, there hasn't been a big enough financial interest to push them to that point yet.
Wow.
Which a lot of us think there has been some subsidies given to some of these larger institutions to continue this pathway for now.
Yeah, people aren't paying and they're not getting kicked out of their properties. Never in our history has it.
But if you're a renter, you are going to get kicked out because the eviction moratoriums, for the most part, are over,
done.
and there is landlords moving forward.
Yes.
And in mass, it feels like so.
So you guys don't deal with the evictions because you
No,
deal with the
no.
foreclosures of real property.
Correct.
And but as far as it is getting busier because you've come to town and you've posted 4 houses.
Mm-hmm.
When you're coming to town, then you'll do the auctions and then you'll take off. And right now you're seeing the auction, the postings increase.
Yeah, not to a huge degree, but coming off the bottom for sure. And what's been a little bit different is more high-end houses than we normally would get that are now actually not making the minimum bids generally at the auction. So a lot of properties that are $2, $3, $4 million would sell on it. Our auctions are cashier's check, so there is no financing. But we have seen more of those high-end properties actually go back to the lender.
The thing that we were talking about was houses that they've been in foreclosure so long too.
Mm-hmm. And so the arrearages grow significantly during that time,
which floored me because we had a property that we talked about in June,
right?
That the opening bid was, I think, $2,070,000. It was just over $2 million,
right?
And then it just went to auction at $2.7 million.
Yeah, that's
in December.
Really high. I think they had some legal fees in there, along with the default interest rates are significantly higher than what usually shows is the rate on your note.
Wow.
So some of them are very punitive. So it's like a parking meter. It moves really fast.
Now, we won't talk about your fees
right.
specifically, mm-hmm. But when you deal with a private lender, your fees are higher than with like Fannie Mae and
well, they have a fee schedule that the government basically uses for Fannie Freddie files. Private deals, commercial deals are subject to California to a maximum of 1% of the unpaid balance of the note. So
think about it, guys. If somebody owes $2 million,
that would be $20,000 would be the maximum fee.
The fee for that. So it goes to auction, then it gets kicked out. The fee gets added on. So this gets compounded into the foreclosure amount, which makes it just a huge, huge amount. So that's why you're seeing certain things that I'm surprised when things go back to the bank and don't get sold right now. Mm-hmm. But you're also seeing some areas like certain cities, and I won't name specific cities, that I'm really shocked at how high the sales are right now.
Yeah, they're still. Orange County, California, I have to say, is really withheld, really strong, held up very strong. Very few properties available, and if I get anything in Orange County, I tend to they'll squeeze everything they can out of a property in Orange County, literally and figuratively. So, yeah.
So the deals will be coming eventually, mm-hmm. Okay?
They'll be coming.
People, again, if you know anybody that's in foreclosure and they're getting hounded, they should be able to work something out right now.
Absolutely.
And
true.
This is the last chance, don't you think?
Yeah, I think when values are still good, it gives people more flexibility. If values do continue to fall, it does put them in a weaker position, unfortunately.
You're being very conservative the way you're talking. But you're getting...
It's like the mortician's sense of humor.
Okay, but you're getting busier, though. I know that. And one day, we met early. You drove out from Las Vegas, and we ended up having a very late lunch, early dinner, and you had posted 11 houses on the way in.
Yeah,
and you're like, nothing.
Yeah, nothing. I mean, yeah, comparatively speaking, when we were really deep in this 15 years ago, 150, 200 houses in a week would not be unusual for myself. That would be a 6-day work week typically. So I don't expect we will see that. But I expect we'll see probably triple where we're at right now, which is still it'll be a decent number, but nothing like we saw, in my opinion, from 15 years ago.
I got contacted this week by a really good realtor that lives locally here that I went to high school with. I think I went to elementary school with him too. And Tony was talking about how he likes to go in, he gets the notices where people are in foreclosure, and he goes and knocks on the door, which is gutsy to do.
I expect that to return more. It was very popular 15 years ago with door knocking. pre-foreclosure purchases. I expect that will actually increase significantly as our volume increases. All those other activities will increase correspondingly as well.
Well, he's, had some
It's a good idea by
success.
him. Yeah, it's a good idea.
Another realtor, Steve, wrote me about this where he had success helping a guy out of foreclosure doing the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
And,
great work for realtors.
you know,
If they get knowledgeable in this area, it definitely could help them with getting clients in the future and helping people out.
the days of just listing a house and sitting back and getting a
Yeah,
check
those
is done.
days are going to end very quickly. Realtors are going to be fewer and far between, and they're probably going to have to work harder to make the same amount of money, unfortunately.
Again.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to bring you in and thank you for telling everybody this, but I just think that I know it's getting busier. I know how busy you're getting. And people just didn't believe that people were still in their houses.
Let's do some field trips this year, Dan. And we'll probably do some stuff where maybe some live scenes from some auctions, but also from some of the bigger events that will happen throughout the year pertaining to foreclosure. Hopefully we'll be able to do some remotes and a few things along those lines. Okay. Everything's subject to change, but we definitely could be entering a pretty exciting year in 2024 and heading into 2025.
So if you want to buy a house, there's going to be deals on these properties is what he's trying to say, but you need that word that I don't have, and that's patience. None of us have patience, okay? Most people don't. But as usual, bro, thank you so much for being here. And thank you. I hope that this answered some questions, and I hope I didn't overspeak Doug too much. He talked over him again. Very excited that he's here.
We'll come back, though. Don't worry.
Okay. So one more thing I got to cover with you guys. Let's talk about our sponsor, Patriot Gold Group. When you think about real estate, and especially commercial real estate, there is $1.5 trillion that has to be refinanced between now and the end of 2025. There's going to be big problems. These banks are going to be in big trouble if this doesn't get refinanced and if there's not a solution to this. You need to protect yourself and protect your retirement. The best thing to look at is metals in your retirement. The best place to call is Patriot Gold Group. Call them today, 888-330-1431, and get a free investor guide. It's absolutely no obligation. They have the IRA and 401k that's backed by physical metals. They sell all types of metals, but you need to do this today before it's too late. Look at what all the banks are telling us. They're telling us that we're going to see record highs for gold very soon. You don't want to miss out on this. Call them today. Let them know that Dan from iAllegedly sent you, and that is a phone call to 888-330-1431. Call them today and get your free investor guide. I want to thank you, Doug, for being here today and answering all these questions. I hope I didn't talk over them too much, guys. And if you want to ask Doug any direct questions, feel free to send me an email at hello@iallegedly.com, and in the subject line, put for Doug, and I will make sure that the questions get to Doug because we talk all the time, and he's a great friend of mine, but he is in tune to this industry, and you are going to see problems with banks, okay? You're going to see big changes that are going to come about, and it's just time to get ready. So just keep an eye out for this stuff and keep an eye out in your own communities because people sit there and say, in South Carolina, it's busy, Dan, it's fantastic. But is it? Okay? Take a look at it today and check around and just watch this and be ready. If the foreclosures interest you, just be patient and you're going to see major opportunities coming about.
Absolutely. And we might have a couple of resources we're going to be able to hopefully introduce soon that will be able to help people with be able to find some deals and just some basic stuff in foreclosure. So stay tuned.
Thank you guys for being here. Onward and upward. I will see you soon. Like, subscribe, and again, email me anytime. I will see you guys very soon.